What's up, gamers? This is John with Gamester81.com. This is a walkthrough of our awesome video game store in Lawrence, Kansas called GameNut. Here's the front. You see that display area? They actually change it out every couple times a year. I was talking to the owner, Gene. His name is Gene Nut. Kind of ironic. I wonder if that's how he came up with the name. But he was showing me some of the displays that he'd done in the past. He did a really cool Star Wars display, and it's cool. It's kind of an eye catcher. This is the second location they have in Lawrence. This is actually the first that they opened up. They have a satellite location as well. An amazing selection of games. Here's kind of the backside, kind of a top-down look at it, a pan. Really amazing selection. And what I was blown away, not only did they have a lot of modern-day stuff when you walk in, but they had a lot of retro. And not only like retro, like your typical Nintendo, Super Nintendo, all that good stuff. I'll show you here later in the video. See, they had a bunch of like Jaguar games. They had a whole bunch of TurboGrafx-16 games, ColecoVision games, Atari games, games that you don't really see every day out in the wild, so to speak. So as I do a walkthrough of this, I want you guys to start spotting some games. If you guys see a game you like, or you say, hey, that's cool, definitely leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of the store, because I think it's one of the better ones. I've done a lot of traveling. I've been to a lot of game stores, and this certainly is one of the better ones I've been to. Super nice team as well, very helpful. They have several stories. They actually have a double story, a second story as well, where they actually you can actually rent out for different events and stuff, which is really cool. Classic PS2 games here. They got a really cool display. There's a Skyrim, like collector's edition. As I mentioned before, they do have a lot of modern games as well. This is a buy used games, and so you can go in, sell stuff as well. They do carry some new games as well, which is cool. CDs galore. I mean, you don't see CDs like this in the wild very often. CDs is kind of a dying thing, but still cool. I'm a big fan of CDs. I prefer to have, just like video games, I prefer to have the actual tangible copy of it than a digital copy. Check this out, guys. Come on, for real. You got Genesis games galore, boxed. You also have some cool plushes. Check this out, boxed Nintendo 64 games. Those are something you don't see every day. And some really classic ones. Here's some boxed Super Nintendo games. So again, this is just like a fraction of what they actually have. They have storage in the back. I was fortunate enough to go back there and check it out, which they don't usually let people back there. But I can tell you they have a huge selection. Boxed Nintendo games. I spot some boxed Super Mario 3 and a Tetris. Here's the GameCube games. I'll tell you what, right now, guys, GameCube games right now are a hot item. I mean, they're very popular. Luigi Mansion, for example, can go for quite a bit of money. There's Pikmin 2, which is classic. I'm trying to spot with some other ones in here. Star Fox Adventures, which is kind of an interesting Star Fox games, some Sims games. Road Rage, I spot Simpsons Road Rage, is a pretty fun game. Here is N64. These are the loose carts. I really like how they have everything displayed here at GameNut. I'll say as far as pricing goes, pricing is definitely reasonable here, guys. So they definitely do their homework, and as far as what the pricings are, but I can tell you they're priced reasonable. In a lot of cases, I found that they're priced below what you'll often find on eBay. So you can definitely get some good deals here, and they do have areas of the store that they have like clearance items. You can get things like for several dollars or more, but or less, I should say. Clarify there. But again, some classic N64 games. Quake 64, or Quest 64 rather, is a good one. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I spotted Shadow of the Empire right there, which is a must-own. I love Shadow of the Empire. I think that's one of the launch titles or very early released games for N64. Classic Game Boy games. Seriously, it's one of my favorite retro systems out there. Some really great ones. That Alleyway is a really fun game. Definitely check it out. Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong. When I picked that up initially, I was expecting it to be like an arcade port. Totally blew me away. Completely different than the arcade. It starts off as the arcade, but it started like the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series, I believe. There's Metroid 2 for the Game Boy and some classic ones. So really cool that they actually shrink wrap. You'll notice that they actually shrink wrap a lot of their games to protect it from dust getting in there. Not only that, but they're behind glass doors, which is cool. Of course, moving on to more handheld games, they got Game Boy Advance. When the Game Boy Advance, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't say I wasn't a fan of it. I just didn't really buy many Game Boy Advance games when they first came out. But I'll tell you what, right now, I'm a big fan of the Game Boy Advance. It's basically like a portable Super Nintendo as far as graphics go. Probably a little better than Super Nintendo, but there's some really good gems. Classic Pokemon games there for the original Game Boy. But the thing about Game Boy Advance games is they actually hold their value pretty well. So they're not necessarily as cheap or affordable as the original Game Boy games go, but certainly some classic ones out there. Definitely, it's a great system to collect for some gems. A lot of times you'll find them loose like this. It's hard to find a boxed Game Boy games for some reason. So if you do, definitely take time to scope them out. But you can see there are a ton of them. And the cool thing about this place, guys, if you have any questions about any games, definitely these guys that work here were very, very helpful as far as, you know, looking up in the computer, seeing if they actually have it in their inventory. And if there's not a game that they have there at the moment, they have another location in Lawrence as well. So they may have it there, or you might be able to ask them, and they might be able to put your name on a list. But for if they do get it in, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to do that. But I'll tell you, Gene is a super cool guy, the owner. Talked to him for a little bit, and he actually started off working for like Babbage's and Software Etc. back in the day. And he loved games so much, he decided to kind of open his own place, seeing how GameStop kind of took over everything and changed how you buy games and how they got rid of retro games. So he wanted to open his own store, so I give him awesome credit for that. And he's had the store for quite a while now. Here's some Game Boy or Xbox games rather, PS2 games. This is kind of the area. I think these are like this clearance aisle, you can like $3 or less area. Got Mad World there, which is classic for the Wii. Here is 32X games, guys. As I mentioned before, a lot of variety. This is just a pure example one. Cosmic Carnage, Star Wars Arcade for the 32X. It's by Sega. It's a pretty fun one. I believe that's based on Sega's arcade. There's Knuckles, Metalhead. Again, they shrink wrap them to protect the dust and stuff, which I think is pretty smart to do. These are in box and kind of in behind the shelf. Here's some Virtual Boy games. Like I said, again, another example of some classic ones. Tennis, Red Alarm, Golf. They even had some import ones too, which is cool. The thing about the import Virtual Boy games is actually I like the artwork on those a lot better than the North American release. But super fun game system to collect for. I think there was like up to 14 games released from North America, somewhere around there, 12 to 14. I actually have a complete collection. Jaguar. This is a classic. Look at this one right here. This is I've never seen that. That's just like that artwork there looked really, really cheesy. There's a Dragon's Lair for the Jag CD box one, which is cool. I probably would have snagged that. I already actually own a copy, but very, very cool. Again, you don't see that. There's Jackie Chan, Wolfenstein 3D, which is actually a pretty decent port for the Jag. And here is TurboGrafx 16. Keith Carnage. That's TV Sports. They have these TV Sports line of hockey and baseball. Tricky Kick, I can't say I've ever played that game. Sorry for the glare. In some cases, World Class Baseball. There's Bonk's Revenge. A must own. Love the Bonk series, definitely. On to ColecoVision games. Here's Galaga. That's a pretty rare game for the ColecoVision. That's an Atari game. Yeah, Atari did make games for the ColecoVision under their Atari Soft label. Kind of funny because they were competitors, considered competitors back in the day anyway. But ColecoVision, awesome system, one of my favorite retro ones. Here's Game Gear. They had 2 full boxes of Game Gear games. 2 full boxes of Game Gear games. Unbelievable. X-Men, it's a pretty fun one. There's it wasn't DuckTales, but some kind of game similar to that. Sonic 2. Wasn't a huge fan of the Sonic games for the Game Gear, to be quite honest with you. Here's some more of the clearance bins areas. Moving on to classic NES games. Turtles 3, Manhattan Project. Awesome fighter. There's Wario Woods. I'll tell you an interesting fact about Wario Woods. It's the very last game produced for the NES. It was a late issue game for it. In fact, it's the only NES game that you'll see a cartridge with an ESRB rating on it. It came out that late. I believe it came out 94, sometime late in the life of the NES. In fact, it's also ported to the Super Nintendo, so at that time you probably could be better off getting it for the Super Nintendo. NES Open, great golf game. In fact, I prefer that over the original NES golf, the first golf game anyway. Fester's Quest, super hard. Gauntlet 2, George Foreman KO. I think George Foreman's probably making more money on the Foreman Girls than he ever did boxing. Yeah, Ice Climber, looks like Hunt for the Red October. Gotcha, which is a great light gun game by LGN. Yes, LGN did make a good game for once there. Funhouse, based on a classic TV show, G.I. Joe. Hoops, had Hoops for the Game Boy back in the day, absolutely. Arkanoid had a really cool control stick. There's Stadium Events. Now I'm just playing this Athletic World. If that was Stadium Events, I'd probably I'd be selling on eBay. Now, I don't know what I would do. I'd be one happy camper, I'll tell you that much. Contra Force is actually a pretty rare game It's not technically a Contra game per se, but Konami ported over and changed the label. Here's some Saturn games. These are in the back. You can definitely see these when you're in the store, but they're behind the counter. But there's some really great ones, and not just sports titles. As you can see here, a lot of variety of great ones. Which, when I usually see Saturn in the wild, I usually see a lot of sports titles. In this case, that's not the case. Tomcat Alley for Sega CD, Space Ace. Let's see what else. Echo the Dolphin, which is actually a pretty good game. If you own a Sega CD, definitely check out Sonic CD. It's one of the best Sonic games out there. They do have a number of consoles as well, handhelds at the very top shelf here. PSPs, they sell iPods, stuff like the iPads. There's a fat PS3. I was moving down forward because there's an Xbox Slim. N64 top loader NES, normal NES. Super Nintendo, which is yellowed over the years, which is pretty common, unfortunately, because the light gets it. There's a blue Wii. I think that Wii might be a Walmart exclusive Wii. It's a slim one. Got the Nomad. There's a Virtual Boy. There's an import Saturn. There's a yellow one. Or I'm sorry, not yellow. It's the white one. There's a CDI in the back corner and a Jaguar. You got to spy out the Jaguar there. On the Super Nintendo games, a lot of classic ones as well. Again, like how everything is displayed. There's Dr. Mario and Tetris, the combo pack. Great game. Vegas Stakes, Wayne's World, the game. Love the movie, not so much the game. Wheel of Fortune. Here's some more Super Nintendo games. Out to Lunch, kind of interesting game, definitely. No Earthbound here, guys, in case you guys are wondering. I did not see an Earthbound, although I guess they had just recently sold a copy of Earthbound, in case you guys are wondering. So they do get it in. Earthbound is one of those interesting games because it's not necessarily rare, but the demand's so high on it, it's obviously gone up in value. Now, having Nintendo announced recently that it's coming out for the virtual market soon, I imagine that the game is going to drop in price. Let me know what you guys think. I think it's definitely a must-own. Like I said, I'd prefer a physical copy of the game than just a digital copy, but still, it's a must-own. I think the Super Nintendo is such a fun system to play. It's one of my favorite retro games out there. So many great games. I'd almost prefer it over the N64, to be honest with you. I think there's just so many good games. Crash Test Dummies. There's Indiana Jones Adventures. If you guys have played the Super Star Wars trilogy for the Super Nintendo, check that out. It's basically all three Indiana Jones, and it's by LucasArts. JVC published it. There's Mickey Mouse, Lester the Unlikely, Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park's one of those interesting games because every port was a different type of game, but Super Nintendo game wasn't as good as Genesis. Here's kind of a scan of the back area. You can see they had a really cool display. There's a complete Rob the Robot, Atari. I think those are more on display. Don't necessarily think those are necessarily on sale. So I'm sure if you talk to Gene, the price is right. Perhaps you guys can come up with something. But here's a back counter area. Here's Dreamcast Games. You gotta show love for the Dreamcast. Sega definitely went out strong here with the consoles. I think Dreamcast being a great. I think the problem with the Dreamcast it was ahead of its time. There's Shenmue, Street Fighter 3, Third Strike, Marvel vs. Capcom. Right there, three classic must-own ones for the system. My personal opinion. There's Quake 3 Arena. Crazy Taxi is a really fun game as well. I really like House of Dead 2. There's Royal Rumble, WWF/WWE. There's Star Wars Demolition. Not the best Star Wars game, to be honest with you. Original Xbox games. I think Microsoft dropped the Xbox too soon. I think there's some great games for the Xbox. There's Star Wars Obi-Wan, which is an Xbox exclusive. It came out really early on. I remember when that came out. That came out before I actually owned an Xbox. It really make me want to purchase an Xbox because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, obviously. Here's some PC games. Not a huge collection of PC games, but there are there. Tomb Raider and all that good stuff. PC, definitely, if you're into PC, they definitely have them here. Here's classic, going down to classic Ps1 games. Ton of them, guys. Ton of them. And this is, again, another great system to collect for. There's so many must-owns for the PS1. You can get them a lot. You get a lot of these for dirt cheap. And the graphics and some of them don't really hold up very well as they do today. But there's Final Fantasy VII. I mean, there's a must-have right there. And that was pretty decently priced. I forget what it was charging for it, but I know it was just pretty decent. And that was here's some other ones as well. And here's a cool section of classic gaming magazines and strategy guides. Nintendo Power, for sure. Definitely too bad the recent demise of Nintendo Power. Super Star Wars Empire Strikes Back Yoda cover, classic. This is a really cool store, guys. They're on Facebook. I'll put a link to their Facebook below. If you guys are in the Lawrence, Kansas area, certainly check them out. Definitely it's worth your time to come out here and check out both the stores. Show some love and appreciation to these guys. Here is Levi. He's actually a fan of my show. He recognized me, which is cool. But definitely check this out, guys. Appreciate you guys subscribing as always. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. See you guys soon. And follow me on Twitter, Facebook as well, and my website, Gamester81.com.